When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. You're ready to move your business forward, but first, you need to find the right team. Start your search with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It can help you reach qualified candidates fast, ensuring your listing is the first one they see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. See the results for yourself. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Dr. Raj.
Dr. Raj Dasgupta.
The most interesting pulmonologist in the world.
Welcome to the Dr. Raj Podcast, a show all about empowering knowledge, addressing difficult topics, raising awareness, and being positive. Dr. Raj is a quadruple board-certified physician, associate professor of clinical medicine, and the associate program director of internal medicine residency. He was a co-host on the TNT series Chasing the Cure with Ann Curry, as well as a regular on the TV show The Doctors. And now, here's our show.
Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Raj Podcast. I'm your guest host, Becca Spahr. In real life, I'm a keynote speaker and likability expert who helps leaders find the courage to be likable by speaking about the benefits of positive leadership mindsets. But today, I'm excited to be a part of the Dr. Raj Podcast family and to introduce you to today's guest. Today, I will be chatting with Dr. Becky Hamm, founder and CEO of Women Lead Well. She's a leadership coach for women and an expert in burnout. Hopefully that's not because you're burnt out, and rather it's because you know all about it and you want to share our wisdom. Becky, welcome.
Thank you, Becca, for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
I hope it's not too confusing that you're Becky and I'm Becca for everybody today. Please start by just telling me all about you and how you got to where you are and your business, Women Lead Well.
Sure. You had mentioned that you hoped I came to this topic of burnout without having experienced it myself, and I'm sorry to dash your hopes, but I did come to this work through my own personal experience with burnout. And as a way to introduce myself, I'll tell just the quick story of how Women Lead Well came into being, how I came to do the work that I do. I have spent 20 plus years in higher education. And so my professional background was in helping adult learners gain the skills and knowledge they need to excel professionally. And I loved it. Started out teaching mid-career professionals, moved to become a dean, so overseeing an educational program and the faculty who taught that educational program. And then in 2019, moved to become a provost, so oversaw all of the educational programs and faculty of a university. And we had 60,000 students, multiple campuses spread across the globe. It was a big, complex, juicy job, and I loved it. However, right? What I had realized back when I was dean was that I was working from just a really shaky foundation. And what I mean by that is my husband and I married a little later. We were very fortunate to have our kids later in life. I was in my 40s for both births. Very grateful we had 2 healthy children. And it was December of 2017, and I had been dean for about a year at that point. The professional conference for us happens every December, an accreditation conference. It was in Fort Worth, Texas. I grew up in Texas. I have family in Fort Worth. And so had my husband came, our brand new baby came with us. She was about 6 months old. And he was going to watch her while I went to the conference. And so one of the afternoons I said, hey, I'll take her with. Like, you relax. You're carrying all of this weight. You know, we're relatively new parents. We don't have any idea what we're doing. And so I'm pushing this infant in a stroller to a conference that's got 4,000 people. And folks stared at me like I was an alien. And people who did come, nobody was rude, but the people who did come up to me assumed I was a very junior kind of administrative person. And there are all sorts of cultural associations about when women have children that would lead them to think I was younger. Mm-hmm. and I tend to look younger. And so I get it. But anyway, this was back when Twitter was still lovely. And so I tweeted, like, if you want women in leadership roles, you got to get comfortable with motherhood. Like, my baby's not screaming. She's not calling. She's sleeping. If she needs something, I sat in the back so I wouldn't be disrupted. I sent that tweet out. I walked into a session. I had gone viral. Peggy Noonan, a conservative commentator with the Wall Street Journal, had seen my tweet, and she reached out to the editor of the op-ed page at the Journal, who then reached out to me to say, we want you to write an op-ed on this. And I didn't think a whole lot of it because, like, yeah, if you want women in leadership roles, then organizations have to support women in leadership, families, motherhood. So I wrote the op-ed. I thought it was pretty vanilla. It went out in like January of 2018, I think. And the hate that descended on me was insane. And that was the moment where I got super clear that the overfunctioning, the people-pleasing, externalizing validation, the fact that these people who didn't know me, didn't know anything about me, I was legitimately good at what I did, were just dumping all, and it rattled me to my core. Like, I felt it. And my inclination was, I got to shrink back. Like, I'm just not going to be out there anymore. And I'm going to be even more people pleasing. And I'm going to try to be even more amazing so people will love me, right? And maybe it was because I had my daughter. Maybe it was because, like, everything came together. And I realized, no, that's not enough, right? Like, I can't live with myself in this shrunken way. And so that's when I started doing all of the mindset work and the affirmations and the meditation and the intention setting and the mantras and rewriting my story. And that was great until I started as provost and COVID hit and all of higher education was in a tailspin about how do we deliver education in a different modality. And then all the budget pressures that came with COVID, we had to make important, valuable, but really painful decisions about how we were allocating resources across this very large, disparate, complex organization. Every day was a difficult discussion. Every day was painful. And because I was still trapped in this cycle of overfunctioning and people-pleasing, I held it together, right? On the outs, people were telling me I was doing a good job and I was an encouraging leader and they were glad they worked for me. And, I would receive the external accolades and I was hollowed out on the inside. And that's where I realized, one, that I was burned out, that it wasn't sustainable. We had 2 kids by this point, and I never felt fully present with either one of them. I didn't feel fully present in my marriage. And while the work I was doing professionally I knew was important, I valued the meaning of it, I didn't enjoy it anymore. Like, I was just trying to keep my head above water in the worst possible way, right? I guess there's no good way to do that, but it was not good. And so that's where I said, okay, mindset, love you, but there's something I'm missing. And that's what brought me to nervous system regulation and really tuning in, grounding into my body so that I felt safe and I wasn't leaking energy to other people, so I could really focus on what was most important to me.
So that realized this is a story. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to pause and digest all of that a little bit because I'm hearing, a story that I have experienced very similarly. Certainly other women have experienced this very difficult balance, nearly impossible balance between motherhood and working, marriage and working, maintaining even just a semblance of having like reasonably good mental health and working. And good on you for realizing that you needed to work on your mindset and taking steps to do that. But then what you have told me, and I love this, is you can't mindset your way out of burnout. Tell me how you got to that point. It's a provocative statement. So what do you mean by that?
Sure. And I have seen this in myself and I see this in my clients. So Women Lead Well, we provide one-to-one coaching. There's also a group program that we have launched. And What I mean, mindset is critical. And so please, nobody interpret what I'm saying to poo-poo on mindset. No, mindset is clutch, but mindset is one piece of a larger puzzle. And it is the layer, as I envision, this is the top layer, but the foundation is your body. And then your mind and your body work together to either keep you stuck in a cycle of burnout and overfunctioning and people pleasing, or keep you roughly, generally, most of the time in a state of regulation that is sustainable and joyful and authentic to who you are as a person. And so it really was this process of my getting clear that my body needs physical rest. My body needs actual nutrition, right? Nutrient dense food to feed me on a cellular level. My body needs to know that it is safe, right? I think the most important discovery that I've had through all of this and what I help my clients understand is your body and your mind, body and brain, they've got one job. And that job is not to get you promoted. That job is not to get you on a New York Times bestseller. That job is to keep you alive. Yes. And they could care less about anything other than that. And so the way they do that is by constantly observing thousands and thousands of input and stimuli and processing all of it. We never realize it, or we realize like a tiny little fraction of it. But constantly surveying to say, am I safe right now? And do I anticipate safety kind of around the bend as I look toward the future? And the way they do that, and this is where mindset does come in, is they look at past experience. And so any past trauma or past experience and the stories we've told ourselves about that, that feeds into how our mind and our body, our nervous system, interprets the present moment and the predictions it makes about the future. So again, mindset is critical, but if we are living in a constant state of dysregulation, and that's fight, flight, fawn, freeze, any of those, when that becomes our norm, because we've conditioned ourselves to overextend and people please and externalize our sense of validation, that takes a lot of energy because that leaves us constantly in a threat state, where our brain and our nervous system trying to keep us alive, trying to get us out of the threat. And so we stay stuck. And we stay stuck in this loop until you break the pattern. And the way you break the pattern is by regulating the nervous system, helping your body and your mind, but your body recognize its safety. And as that becomes the normal state, as your body becomes comfortable again with feeling safe, like the energy expenditures drop, you're able to re-resource your body and your mind in a way that allows you to have more energy and feel more connected and pursue your goals and ambitions and dreams. This isn't opt out of society and become a subsistence farmer. You can still be a highly successful professional, but you're doing it from a place where you are resourced and your energy is going to what matters the most to you, as opposed to the dog paddling or the treading water of just trying to keep your head above water.
Right, because you're no longer having to put all your energy into surviving and feeling safe. Those needs are already met. And so now all of that energy can go into the things that you actually want to do with your life. Have a job, have a family, have fun, all of those things. Boy, I wish that I had met you 25 years ago when I needed to hear that.
I wish I had met me 25. I was saved a lot of time. And this is why I do what I do. Is it took me years to figure all of this out. And I don't want other women to new moms or professionals. I don't want them to suffer the way that I did. It was not pretty.
Yeah.
And
I love it. I'm having almost like a visceral reaction to this conversation as I'm like remembering, a lot of the just trials that I went through personally, and how it's amazing to me how you just, nobody tells you this stuff, I guess is what it is. You go to school, you get your academic education, and all of that is good and useful, but only now is this idea of that, like, mental health is really important, connection is really important. So let's actually teach people about these things while they're young, so that they don't go through these struggles that lead to burnout. And so, where now people are, our age, we're like in our like 40s, 50s, we're kind of like we're feeling good. We've hit our stride in our career. Maybe we have a family, or if we've chosen to, or we have whatever other like personal commitments there are, but it just gets to be so overwhelming. But if you have this information at the onset, you don't have to experience that overwhelm, or maybe not as deeply. I think a lot about, how this like ebbs and flows too throughout your life. And you have times where you are going to maybe get closer into the like danger burnout, area. And then times where it's less so. Can you talk about that sort of like ebb and flow of just going through life, and that there are times when it's more of a trial to keep your mindset good, and other times when it isn't?
Sure. I think this is an incredibly important point. And you've identified some of those pieces. There is maybe I'm starting a family, and that takes a lot of energy, not just the physical energy to create a human with your body for the women who are listening, but to establish a relationship if you're having your child with a partner, and to build that relationship and maintain it, and then to build a human and then birth it and figure out what am
Maintain
I doing?
it. Yeah.
What am I doing? I have no idea. And also build a career, right? And so again, I think I was lucky in that I was able to have my children later in life, where I was already established professionally, because that gave us a lot of flexibility and options that I would not have taken if I were younger and I were more worried about building my career. But now, I turned 50 this year, and my children are in grade school now. So we've got a rising first grader and third grader. So yay. And I also have my parents who are in their 80s. And so this is another, and they're relatively healthy. They live locally. And so that is comforting to me, that I can see them and help them if they need help. The TV doesn't work. What can we do? Or lift something heavy for them. But I know the road we're going down, right? And so there is a neuroscientist by the name of Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, and she has written on what's called the body budget. And I love this concept. So let me explain it quickly, and then I'm going to tie it to this question you asked about seasons of life and how do we keep ourselves out of burnout, right? How do we stay pre-burnout? So the concept of the body budget is so intuitive, which might be why I love it. But again, our brain, our nervous system is just trying to keep us alive, and it keeps this running ledger of deposits and withdrawals from our body, from our energy stores, from our ability to function. And so a deposit would be a good night's sleep. A deposit would be healthy exercise. For a perimenopausal woman, that might not mean like HIIT, high intensity training. That might mean going for a walk, not running a marathon, because the cortisol spikes that we know come with the more intensive activities. But going for a walk, yoga, just some kind of movement for your body, deposit into the body budget. Difficult conversation, that is a withdrawal. Bad night's sleep, that's a withdrawal. Drinking 3 cups of coffee before you eat your breakfast, withdrawal, because of the hormonal imbalance that it produces. Now, your mind is constantly measuring these deposits and withdrawals, and as it feels the body moving into the red, it limits non-essential activity so that it can keep your liver going, right? Like, it's a good thing. We like it. But what does the brain consider non-essential activity? Your executive function, your ability to regulate your emotions, your capacity for patience, all of the things that we know are important for us to lead a full, fulfilling life, to be effective leaders, to be successful, instantly diminished as soon as the brain and the body senses us moving into the red. So what I work with my clients on is, how do we strip away any of these withdrawals that are not necessary. So any withdrawal that we can get rid of, let's get rid of them. And so we talk about our core values. We talk about energy engines and energy leaks. So what activities give us energy and what activities drain us? That's going to be different for each person. So I get very clear with my clients. I don't care about what should be the case for you. I just care about what is true for you in your unique individual life. That's the truth we need. And so we, to the best of our ability, we limit those energy leaks. We try to feed the energy engine. So the things that give you energy, we work on. I'm not a nutritionist, but we work on how do we feed the body? How do we police our schedule so we get sleep? And then there are a number of neurosystem regulation techniques that you can do. Many of them you can do in public. You could do them at a meeting if a meeting is stressful, to pull you out of that fight or flight, fawn and freeze, and back into a regulated state. Because from a body budget perspective, that dysregulation sucks a lot of energy. You're in the red. That's a big expenditure. Whereas if you can get yourself regulated, bring yourself back, and you can do it in under a minute, just bring yourself back to a place of regulation and groundedness, you're not hemorrhaging out of your body budget. And so it could be that you are newly married and have your first child while you are building your career, and that is a super stressful time, or even worse, right? Building your career, going through a divorce, parents have passed, all of these things that harm us emotionally, physically, spiritually. You can intentionally resource yourself, make intentional deposits into that body budget, and it doesn't prevent the stress, right? Those stressors are what they are, but they help strengthen your baseline. So the crash isn't as deep, isn't as significant, and the rebound doesn't take as much effort. So the goal is that you can't get rid of stress. That's a part of life. But what you can do is build your capacity to move through stress in a more easeful way. And that's the goal of the work.
That makes total sense. So you've got your sort of stress padding almost, stress is going to happen.
That's right.
We know that it is an inevitability. So while we can, fill up our bucket or increase our budget, like you said, our body budget, do the things that we can be doing to help once stress inevitably happens, so that you're not already working on like a negative balance when stress happens.
Right.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It's a good analogy. So then walk me through, like, there are times, like we talked about the seasons of life, there's times where you kind of know, like, okay, well, look, I'm going to be a new mom soon, or my parents are aging. We're going to have to move them to an assisted living or whatever. Like we see these things on the horizon. So what are we doing to prep ourselves when we know that kind of thing is coming up?
Sure. One of the first things I do with clients is a values clarification exercise. And I want my clients to be crystal clear on what matters most to them. And again, that's unique to every person. And as we mature, as we move through these different stages of life, our core values will change. They can, they don't necessarily. But so getting clear on right now in this season of life, what is the most important thing for me? And different people are different. For me, it is connection. It is freedom. And freedom is time freedom, financial freedom, like literal space. I grew up in Texas, and so I don't like to feel crowded. I had a lot of room, like that's programmed into my DNA somehow. It is harmony. I love when things come together in a harmonious way. I don't like friction, right? And so I lead my life in alignment, and family, clearly, I lead my life in alignment with those values, connection, freedom, harmony, family. And anytime I'm faced with a decision, and it could be relatively minor, do you want to go do X on Saturday? I tie it back to those values. And is this in alignment with what matters most to me? And if it is a whole body, yes, we hear about this a lot. I'm a big fan. If it's a whole body, yeah, then I do it joyfully, and there's not a second of regret. And that is delightful. And that is how I tap in to connect with sustainable joy, right? And if it's a no, or if I teach suck, or if it's a I should, then I spend a little bit more time on it. And maybe if this is a professional discussion, Is that a task I can delegate to someone else so that it would it's an energy engine for them, it's something or an area for them to grow in? Then I will happily delegate and not feel like I'm shirking responsibility. I'm providing an opportunity for leadership growth for someone else, and I provide appropriate oversight, right? All the things. Is it something I can just ditch and not do, right? That it's important to somebody else, but it ain't important to me, right? Doesn't align and it's not valuable and it's an energy leak. I ditch it. I don't do it. And then I say like, and then I don't feel bad about it. I've taught myself not to feel bad about it. Right. I certainly didn't start there. And so as you are preparing for what could be an intense season of life, getting clear about your core values and starting to prioritize not just your time, but really importantly, your energy. So your energy is going first to those things that are most important to you. And also, ideally, those things that also give you energy. They matter to you and they bring you energy. And to the best you can, delegate, delay, or ditch those things that don't align. That's not always possible. Like, I don't live in utopia, but to the extent you can, that frees up energy, and it should free up some time. So then what do you do with that energy and time? That's where you really are intentional about the nervous system regulation. I love breathing exercises. Those are really effective for me. I always encourage my clients. I give them a list of multiple nervous system regulation techniques, some to do in private. You got some like bilateral movement where you move the two sides of your body independently from each other. Big arm swings help with that. It's called a butterfly hug is another. You maybe don't want to do that in a crowded boardroom. But there are nervous system regulation techniques that you can do in a crowded boardroom. You can work on your breathing. You can tap your fingers, your thumb and your ring finger, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand. Do that under the table. No one will know.
I know people are doing it right now while they're listening.
Right now. It signals safety to your body. And again, this is in investing, we talk about compound interest. This is the compound interest in our human experience. You don't need a 2-week retreat. You need 45 seconds of tapping your fingers, 5 minutes of box breathing while you're commuting to work, right? You habit stack it with something you're already doing. And again, that conditions your body to feel safe in the present moment. And that normalcy of letting your body feel that as the baseline is the normal. Then when you move into a stressful season, one, you have already built the habit of the healthy coping mechanisms, not the unhealthy coping mechanisms for stress. You've built the healthy coping mechanisms, and your baseline is a lot stronger than it would have been if you didn't start this normal practice until you got to that stressful season.
Yeah, you do a great job of breaking it down. It's all very logical about the way that your brain's functioning and the way that your body's reacting and what you can do to regulate that. And I would imagine, as with anything, the more that you practice it, the better you're going to get at it, the faster you can make a decision about, is this something that is going to bring me joy, or is this something that I need to delay, ditch, or what was the other one? Delegate?
Delegate, yep.
Yeah, I like that. So those like that thought process becomes quicker the more that you practice it, I would imagine. What about the people, though, who are so losing it? Like they're on the verge of tears, they're slamming drawers, they're, going to the bathroom to cry at work. Once you've gotten to that point, and then I would think that that's almost like kind of like a crisis situation. What is your advice on kind of coming back from there? What do you do?
Sure. Well, so I would say, one, I'm not a licensed therapist. And so if you're in a situation that is extreme, it could be that an actual psychiatrist or psychologist would be the best first step, right? But what I work with my clients on, and I mean, I'll admit fully, I was that person crying in the bathroom. I would cry on the drive into work and I would cry on the drive home from work. And on the point of crying, I always tell my clients, it's a great thing to cry. Crying is restorative to the nervous system. And so you are helping your nervous system reset to go back to a place of safety. You are releasing all of the pent up emotion and all of the yuck that's trapped in your body when you cry. So cry, friends. Don't ever feel bad about it. I know it can be uncomfortable, again, in public. Get yourself to a place where you feel like comfortable, but man, let those tears fly. They're delightfully restorative to who we are. But in those moments, what I found helpful was a combination of mindset and nervous system. I taught myself to ask in that moment when I was freaking out, like panic attack or just complete overwhelm. I would ask myself, am I safe? In this moment, right here in this bathroom stall, am I safe? And it would be, the listeners might be shocked to learn that 100% of the time, yes. In that moment, I was like, nothing actually bad was about to happen. Yes. It was all the story. It was all the loop. It was all the anticipation of the future. It was all the externalizing of the validation. And just that recognition of, am I safe in this moment right here? Am I safe? When my intuition, when my body gave that yes, that is a great first step. And then again, breathing is very therapeutic for me. Different people will figure out what works best for them. But I would pair that kind of thought. And if I had to just put that on a loop for a few minutes, asking myself that question and feeling the yes while I was doing deep breath. So I would breathe in through your nose for 6. I would hold it at the top for as long as I could, and then breathe out through my mouth for 8. And then take a regular breath because you don't want to hyperventilate. I would just sit there and just do the breathing, think the thoughts. At some point, I would yawn. And that yawn is a signal from your nervous system that it's regulating. We see animals do this. You'll see a cat yawn or a dog yawn after an intense encounter, or if they're nervous, that yawning is them working to regulate their nervous systems, or their little dog bodies doing it. We do it too. So when you start the breathing exercise, you'll notice yawning, and that's a good thing. It means you're coming back to regulation. It's also a sign that you are dysregulated. So notice that piece too. The more, if you are intentional about doing a breathing practice, so every day you do the breathing box breathing, or I do the 6-8, you won't yawn as much because you will have worked from a state of regulation, right? So in a moment of extreme overwhelm, panic attack, whatever, I would couple the mindset, the am I safe, like as I sit here, am I safe, with the breathing. And you can do also an embodiment practice of what's one thing I see, what's one thing I hear, what's one thing I feel, what's one thing I smell, maybe depending is one thing I taste. All of that brings us back to the present, where we recognize the safety. And then it becomes a question of, okay, let's talk about your calendar. Let's talk about resourcing you. Let's make a lot of deposits pretty quickly so your body is building that ability to function. And let's talk about where you're hemorrhaging expenditures, right, on the other side, and how we can cut some of those expenditures.
So some useful, mindful thinking through like what's getting me here so that I can prevent it in the future.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if I could add one more thing, I would say I said a lot of positive deposits quickly. Yes. But remember, this is the thing that cracks me up about our mind and our body. It's one job to keep us alive. Well, we are right now alive. You crying in the bathroom stall, me crying in the bathroom stall. I'm alive. When I make concrete changes to my schedule, to my life, to my priorities, how I communicate with others, my body and my mind finds that threatening. Why? Because it's different from what it knows. What it knows keeps me alive, and that change is unknown, and so it's scary. And so our mind will come with, and you've experienced this in your work, I'm sure of it, all kinds of lies and reasons about how the very good, positive, productive change that we're making won't work, is silly, people are going to hate, it's going to come back and bite us. All your mind is going to try to stop you from doing the thing that you should do. So a lot of deposits quickly, but be mindful that that little devil on your shoulder is going to show up.
And might not like that so much.
Right.
But again, as you do it and you practice it, it's going to become more and more, you're creating those neural pathways, you're becoming better and better at it, you're understanding, you're applying. Becky, thank you. This has been so informative. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour about this. So for all those other listeners who can't get enough, Be sure that you check out Becky's website, follow her on social media. She's very active on LinkedIn. I get great tips from her on a near daily basis there. And all of that information will be in the show notes, so that if you feel like you want to continue to hear more from her, do that. And also share it with someone who you know who is maybe struggling with burnout, or you can just tell is not firing on all cylinders because there are things that are holding them back. Please share this episode as well as Becky's other wisdom on her socials. Becky, thank you so much for coming and joining us for a little bit today. And we'll hopefully get to hear some more from you in the future as you continue to grow your business and bring your very important message to more and more people. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Dr. Raj Podcast. If you enjoy the show, then please make sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app and leave a rating while you're there. This show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. This has been a production of MedPrep2Go, and you can learn more at medprep2go.com.